Hello, hello. Welcome to the King Heroes Journey podcast. Super excited today. I'm always excited about these interviews, but this is really fun for me. Mr. David Weiss and Cambell Purvis of Autodidactic are going to be on. They're just a few minutes behind, so I thought I would come on and say hello to you guys and see who's here. We got New is in the house, or was in the house, talking about Expedia on topic. Excellent. And lots of other truther in that. I'm not sure. Hello, Isness. Nice to see you the other night. So great. I'm glad you're excited. And it looks like we're getting ourselves set up here. Hello, Raymond and Cher and Billy Joe and Billington Bear and JB. That's awesome. Good. So I think we're almost ready to go. I can see Cambell. Hello. Nice to meet you. I can see you're in the waiting room there. And we were just going to wait one more minute for Dave, and there he is. So good. Hello, Indigo Dragon. This is lovely. First time here. Excellent. Welcome to this channel. Glad to have you. All right. So if you're not familiar, by the way, there have been a lot of new subscribers recently. My name is Beth Martens, and I am an archetype reader, a coach, and a coach trainer who has a special interest in the extinction event that we are facing at this time. And it has a whole lot to do with the subject that we're going to talk about today with Cambell Purvis and David Weiss. We're going to talk about star forts and the flat earth that I think all of my people are pretty much down with that. In fact, when I get somebody who's not down with flat earth, my audience goes crazy. There is an echo. Is anybody else experiencing an echo? Maybe we'll just iron out the audio. I don't know why there would be. And by the way, we're live on Rockfin. Any second now, I'm going to grab a link for you there and then bring these guys on. Alrighty, so here's Rockfin. If you prefer the uncensored Rockfin, there you go. Okay, and without further ado, here comes David and Cambell Purvis. Hello, hello. Nice to meet you guys. Or, I know David, but nice to meet you, Cambell.
Hey, Beth. How you going? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, awesome. I'm a big fan of your work.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, Jacqueline Milne turned me onto it recently. And I can't get enough. Every time you put out a new something, I got to watch it right away. And I've got some of your streams also with, well, the first one was with David, and I saw how beautifully you work together. And I was inspired to reach out. David and I had a chance to meet last summer, actually 2 summers ago now. Time is flying, eh, David?
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah. In the New York State, I blew the border and drove 6,000 kilometers and hung out with you guys. Super fun, great memory. I have no regrets, even though I lost my whole family over it.
I went on a whim. I was invited to this camp out, like house in Woodstock, New York. I'm like, I'm going. You know, like I think I knew one person, and I met Beth. I met Dr. What's that? Andrew Kaufman, Amanda Vollmer, you know, Freeman didn't show up, but so many people. I'm like, and I had no idea where I was. It was like the most surreal thing ever, and here we are.
Yeah, and GPS worked. It actually worked.
Benjamin Balderson,
Ben Balderson, James True.
James True.
Yeah. I actually came across a photo yesterday of you, David, of you had your camera set up over the valley, and I think you were doing some, what do you call it? Not stop motion, but where you take a picture for a really long time. And Andrew was in the shot, and Amanda Vollmer was in the background there as well. So yeah, just brought it all back.
Good time.
So good. Yeah. So this is the King Heroes Journey podcast. It's where I've hosted a number of people. I have more than 180 live stream interviews and some personal rants and reflections, I call them, of myself, really inspired to bring truth to the world. And, you know, for me, it wasn't enough. It's interesting because the title of today's stream is "The Bigger the Lie, the Easier It Is to Believe." And one of the things I pride myself in this community is not just exposing lies, right? There's always something more on the other side of that called the truth. And they're not to be mistaken with each other, because once you see the lie, you're partway through the door, but that's not the whole thing there. And so I'm a kind of truth hunter, and I see it in both of you guys very tirelessly working on your missions. And I would love to turn it over to you to each introduce yourself properly. I don't have a good bio for either of you, so I'd love to just hear from you, Dave, if you want to go first and let people know. I know you kind of don't need an introduction, but let's do it anyway.
I'm just a guy that kind of started waking up, you know, long before 9/11 to deceptions in the world. And the more you start seeing the truth of the world, the more you start seeing the lies, the more you start seeing through the forest. And I found the world is just way more fascinating than they want us to know. So I'm why do I do this? It was asked me like 3 times today. And I say I do it for my kids, but in reality, I do it for myself. I want the world to be a better place, right? And the truth is so fascinating that I'm never bored. Like, if you have a moment of boredom in your life, something is wrong. You are missing the big picture. Because if they gave me an extra 24 hours every day, I still wouldn't have enough time to learn all I want to learn. I mean, it's unbelievable. And, you know, when I met Cambell, I saw Cambell's work online. I mean, Cambell doesn't necessarily talk about the flat earth, but it's all flat earth. It's all flat earth. You know, Tartaria kind of only works on a flat earth, but everything works on a flat earth. So here I am rambling away, but I'm just addicted to the truth. I'm addicted to truth seeking, to conspiracy and analytics, if you will. Not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy analyst. There you go.
Very nice. I love that.
That makes any sense.
It really does. It really does. So we've got some background noise, and we might have to mute when you're not speaking, just to get that out of the mic. But
that would be you, Cambell.
That would be me, wouldn't it?
That's okay. But you're on now, so if you want to just go ahead and let people know about your channel and what you're up to there.
Yeah. I'm looking into history. I've basically been into history my whole life. You know, started off with the pyramids and the megaliths and all that kind of stuff, and then I hit Tartaria about 6-7 years ago, which kind of brought everything a lot closer. With the sort of, you know, Tartarian research, everything, all the history that we're being told is actually brought closer to us, where all the other history research, it's pushed back into the past. They just push it far, far away. So, yeah, that's what I've been doing, is just basically looking at what's around us, the buildings that are there, you know, the Star Force, everything that's hidden in plain sight, because this stuff, it's in the cities. You just literally have to walk into your local town or city and you'll see evidence of the past civilization, but we were never, you know, it's hidden in plain sight. We were taught, we weren't taught not to look at it, but we were just taught things that made it silly if we started asking questions, you know. And then, you know, society would laugh at you, which is how they kept the truth down, right? You've got to stick with the pack or else you're a weirdo kind of thing. So yeah, I'm just basically a truth seeker, you know, like Dave. I've kind of been confused. I sort of say I've been into confusionism my whole life. Nothing's ever really made sense. So that's really what I'm trying to do, is make sense of what's going on. And yeah, it's a lot more fun, right? Who wants a 9-to-5 job when you can go and research the realm and history and find out what's really going on? So that's pretty much me.
And when Cambell says it's everywhere, it's everywhere. Like, if I go out, just walk in nature, forget it. That's a whole nother mind-blowing experience. I went into New York City, downtown. Lower Manhattan is like all Tartarian buildings. There's windows underground. There's giant doors. There's architecture. There's domes. There's all sorts of stuff that, like, when was this stuff built? Where did it come from? What is it doing? Why is it there? And slowly it's all getting, you know, knocked down and rebuilt over and refaced, but it's everywhere. I found a church here in Connecticut in the middle of nowhere. I was like, look at that, domes and towers. And I looked at it. It was made out of this stone that if you hit it, it rang. And then I looked down, there's a moat, and there was like 4 stories of windows looking into the mud, like looking into that were dug out on one side. And I was just like, nobody's talking about what happened, what this place is, why it was built. In the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere. And even New York. New York used to be a walled city, and that's Wall Street is called Wall Street because literally there used to be a wall there. That was the edge
of
New York City. It was all walled in. It was an old world city.
Hey,
there you go.
Cambell,
there you go. If I could just jump in quickly.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. There's quite a bit of feedback on your mic, Cambell. I don't know if there's anything you can do if you have a headset or anything like that.
Or just turn your gain down a little bit.
Oh,
and he's gone.
And he's out.
All right. Well, look, we don't have any more interference.
I have to go back to something, Dave, also that you said about boredom. It's absolutely true that boredom is the one thing that I had no tolerance for in raising my child, who I kind of raised with somebody else at the same time. And it was the one thing that, people are always trying to remove boredom. And the boredom is actually something that if you go all the way through it, what's on the other side is creativity and the desire to produce something, to work at something. So it's I love that subject. And then Cambell was talking about confusion, and that reminds me that what is it? Something that God is not the author of confusion, I believe, is the phrase. Oh, sorry, did we catch you off guard there?
And you're back.
And you're back. Very good. And what were you going to say, Dave?
I have two questions for Cambell that came up in some interviews I did earlier today. One of them, on Google Earth, there's looks like a wall, like the Great Wall of China, that goes across the oceans, like around the world. Have you seen that, Cambell?
I have seen under the water that ridge thing. Yeah.
And it looks like there's gates, and I thought maybe this is just a seam. Then I saw gates. Well, what am I looking? I saw like there's areas where it gets thinner, and it looks like a cutout gate. I don't know. And then the other thing was, I've never heard this before. They said there's areas of Australia that are fenced off, and nobody is allowed to go beyond that fence. Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, there's lots. In Australia, there's a lot of mining. We had nukes apparently, nukes going off in the 40s and 50s. So there's all these areas that are no-go zones. And the truth with Australia is we don't know what's out there. It's so big that they could have anything out there. There could be cities out there that we didn't know about, and we wouldn't.
So one of the things was they said that Australia is possibly connected to Antarctica, and it's fenced off. And now that you just said that they're one of the excuses is that there's nukes. Well, I don't know if you know this, but most people listening do. Nukes don't exist. Okay, radiation is a scam. So they're just using that to keep people away. So now I'm completely fascinated. I'm going to have to find out more information, and somebody please help me.
Yeah. Well, they did the same thing in the US, right? They did the testing of the nukes, right? Were there cities out there? Is this the way that they were destroying the old world? Like, oh, there's a big city, let's just blow it up and say we're testing nukes.
Yeah, maybe.
And
for those of you that don't know, there might be a couple people there. Nuclear bombs don't exist. What about Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Go to Crow 777 Radio, 2 hours in Crow. Go to episode 53 and little inside information. Episode 400, which is the next one that's being released this week. Another nuke episode that's going to blow people's minds. And what this does, it takes the fear. All the people that believe nukes are real have in every cell of their body some fear that some crazy madman's going to blow up the world with a nuke. Once you hear these episodes, you no longer have that fear. It literally cleanses your body of that fear, and you can live a much happier life. Whenever I hear a politician mention nuke, I just laugh. I'm like, oh, total puppet. Total puppet.
Exactly. Yeah, I was recently, I knew that in the back of my head already. And then I think it was Rose 777 shared something recently, a really good history. I didn't catch all the details. Unfortunately, I have to go back to it, but that's good to hear about the Crow episodes that are going to focus on that. And so today we're going to talk about these specific things, star forts, which I'm relatively new to. Jackie Milne had a fascination with it, and she's got a very intuitive mind and was tuned in with what Cambell was talking about. We're going to talk about tartaria, as you guys have already introduced, the possibility that civilization in our past is not as it's been laid out for us, and the timeline also, the way that it might have been mucked around. How that all relates to flat Earth in a way, there's nothing that doesn't relate to flat Earth, because this is the subject where personally growing up and most of my life, I was completely divorced from my own senses, right? They literally didn't work with anything I had been taught. And so what do? I just checked out of them. I didn't rely on them. I didn't turn to them. You know, you kind of get up here and out. And everything turned around for me where I saw, oh, wow, now my world makes perfect sense. Even if I can't prove any of this stuff, not having the lie of the globe was a very big thing. And the lie of the timeline has huge implications too. So I can't wait to talk about that. And Cambell, I don't know if you're able to screen share, but if there's any images you want to share, we absolutely welcome that because it's more fun that way. So do you want to jump? Yeah. Do you want to jump in with star forts and give us a little 101 on that and any direction?
Yeah. Do you want me to share screen? Basically, star forts are, well, they tell us they're forts. They're not really forts because they love to turn everything into, you know, war, right? Everything's about war. Yeah. It's all war. We're just vicious little beasts, and then our only reason for existing is to kill each other, apparently. So everything's war. But these star forts, the story says they were built between 1500 and 1750 by the Italians and the French. But the problem is we have them in Australia, and Australia wasn't founded until 1788, 38 years after the narrative says that the last one was built. So these things are everywhere, and they're nothing to do with war. They're basically they're energy devices, or as far as we can work out, they're like machines, like the heart of a machine, like the energy producer. Let me just get you here, and I'll share my screen.
Cambell, I've been describing these Tartarian buildings as living buildings almost. They're part of the Earth system, and they're using the energy. You can almost describe them as living. That's how I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. As far as we can work out, is this going to share?
Here, I'm going to rearrange that. Probably will help. I don't know if I need to give you. I shouldn't have to give you any permission. No.
We should. Can you see that?
Yes. Here we are. Yes. Yeah. Excellent. Okay. So great.
That's a star fort. Now, this is what a lot of them look like. This is kind of a little bit derelict on the water, but you can still see these pointy bits. These are called cavaliers, and they're all irregular shapes. And what it is they've been built on energy grid lines. You can see that on islands, they're literally everywhere. And they're reflecting the natural sort of resonance of you know, the ley lines or the song lines. And as you can see, they're all fractal shapes. So this is based on a 4 as well, obviously 4 points. We've got a square in the middle. You can see underneath it, there's another 4-pointer that's been twisted 90 degrees. And so they're all based on geometry and numbers, basically. And as far as we can work out, they're mimicking the natural patterns, because we have these things called cymatics. And a cymatic is the form, the geometric pattern that you can make material like sand turn into when you give it a certain frequency. So basically every sound has a form, has a shape. So what we're looking at here is sound shapes, really.
Wow.
They're just mimicking the shape of the natural earth energies to amplify it is what we can is what we're working out. Obviously, we don't know all the answers yet. We're still working on it. And they're always surrounded by water, right? So they can get their current, right? Because water's full of current, just like electricity. And like I said, these things, I mean, they're everywhere. They're up on, you know, mountains. They're all through the States, all through Europe. This one's in Holland, surrounded by water. And you can see they've built a town in this one. So a lot of them are being used, and a lot of them are just derelict, and they leave them. And the other ones, they say, well, these are forts, and they were built for war, like this. But I mean, that doesn't even make sense. This whole story that we have of forts and war, if you think about how long something like this would take to build, because these are cars, right? These are cars. Mm-hmm. So this thing is huge, right? This is a big structure.
Incredible.
Now, can you imagine having a war and saying, oh, oh, we need a fort for our war. We better go build one. I mean, how long do you think it's going to take to whack one of these up?
Right.
So that when you really think about war and forts, it doesn't make sense. I mean, they kind of want us to believe that everyone says, let's go have a war. Now, what we'll do is everyone run away, build your forts for the next 5 years, then we'll come back and we'll attack each other, right? Because that's pretty much what would have to happen, isn't it? Because there's no way that they would, you know, it's just a silly story. But it's one of these stories that you don't really, you know, unless you think about it and really sort of, you know, start to go, well, does that make sense? Then we just, you know, we just take it for granted, right?
It's very interesting because I've spent a lot of time looking at the predator-prey balance in human beings that has parallels all over nature, inside your, you know, emotional, spiritual world. It can be reflected, the masculine, feminine. And so these energies, when you say like that, they give us this explanation that it was for war. Well, this is coming from predators who think like that. Their whole world is a war. We all have some of that, but some of us are more deeper in. And I was going to just bring up the point I heard you make many times, that it's definitely not physically possible for them to build these in their explanations with like horse and buggy kind of thing. Do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah. I mean, these have so much material in them. This is a good example because when we see them, what we're actually seeing is just the top layer. You can see, I mean, it's probably not the best. Let me go back a bit to another one, but they're all buried. So what we're actually seeing is just the top of them. Where is it? This one.
That one actually seems to, go ahead.
See how this is buried? And you can literally see the curves going down the hill.
Right.
So there's a lot more of this under the ground. It's just like the buildings. You know, everything's been buried. So there is so much material that goes into these, and they're so precise. They're so geometrically precise. I mean, look at this. This is huge. Now, how are they going to get that perfectly geometrically, you know, accurate from the ground when they're supposed to, you know, not even had hot air balloons back when they were making these? You know, it's an impossible task almost to make something this big and be mapping it out on the ground with bits of string. It just doesn't make sense.
Do you have any stuff on the Great Wall of China? Because looking at that, I mean, there's no way that could have been built back then on top of these mountains. And one side has what they called, you know, the cutouts for shooting or cannons and whatnot.
Yeah.
But if you follow the narrative, it's on the wrong side. It's on the friendly side. Yeah, it's on the wrong side.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
And the gates as well. So the way that all the gates open, they open into China. Is that right? No, out of China. So they basically would have let everyone in, and they're shooting into China with all their turrets. So whoever built that wall, it wasn't China. It was the other side built it. It's probably, you know, I mean, that's basically the border of what used to be Tartaria, right? There used to be Tartaria and Chinese Tartaria. So that whole story, and there's walls like that everywhere. There's another massive one in India, and there is a huge one that goes through Russia. And we don't get taught about these. We just get taught the Great Wall of China. You know, and this is kind of what they do. They knock everything down and leave one thing, and then say, "Oh, this is just this amazing thing that was built by this amazing person." You know, when in reality, it's just a part of the makeup of the machine that was everywhere, but they just knock it all over.
Did you know that the Great Wall of China is the only man-made object you can see from the moon?
Can you, Dave?
Ooh, loaded statement.
How do you see on the moon, Dave?
That's what I thought was the coolest thing ever. I must have used that quote a million times, you know, growing up all the way up to 2012, even maybe later.
I know, right?
Unbelievable,
we used to be so smart in our indoctrination, didn't we?
I was like, yeah, it's so long, you can see it. You know, it's like, oh my Lord. Beth, you're talking about how the lie is so big that people can't see it, and you know, our ego is what protects the lie, because the lie is so big. It actually, if you have a big ego, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna kick it right in the nuts. And most people, not most people, lots of people can't deal with that emotional pain. So they do everything they can to stop it.
This is it. This is our Achilles heel. Humanity cannot contend with pain. And we have been conditioned to not contend with pain and fed painkillers at multiple levels in society. And this is my premise for all of the work that I do in coaching, is that pain is in fact the electromagnetic force that you lack or feel that you lack or don't demonstrate. It is the pain that can be, there's a lot of different ways to say it, maybe transmuted or just literally seen for what it is, or it's stuck energy that needs to be moving energy. When like when currency dams up against something, you might get a fire or something like that. So yeah, this is the thing, that the pain of discovering. I went 5 decades I didn't know about star forts. 5 decades. How did that happen? Right. And combing the internet for pictures, you don't even come up with that much. Everything that you're seeing, I'm going like, where is that? Do you find it's being scrubbed off the internet?
The information, I don't know. I actually think that there's, everyone talks about this, bad AI and stuff. I actually think there's good AI out there too, because some of the stuff we find, we search for years and years, and then suddenly all this information will pop up, and it's like, well, where did that come from? Because the truth is, it is all out there if you look for it. But the trick is, people just don't look for it because they don't know about it. So this is how they stop us looking for stuff, I think, is they just divert our attention, right? Because like you said, you didn't know about star forts. I didn't know about star forts until 6-7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The way I see it is, and I use some people think it's a new age term, but your vibration level. And when you're awake and aware to the stuff, you're vibrating at a higher level. Well, you're seeing things on that frequency. We're all seeing this now, but there's other people that are living in we're running out of food, we're running out of dinosaur juice, we're going to be nuked fear level. And every cell in their body is vibrating at a different frequency, and they see a whole different world. And, it's the world is kind of splitting into two worlds, people that see and people that can't see. And it's all there, but they're controlling our minds with fear, false evidence appearing real, and it's blinding us. And I've been saying we're plugged into the matrix, and the matrix is a prison for your mind. Well, that matrix is the heliocentric model, because if you believe in the heliocentric model, you can't see tartaria. You can't see creation. You can't see so much.
Or you might see little bits and pieces here and there. That's where I was at, maybe 6-7 years ago. I knew it was bad out there. I knew there was corruption from a young child. I knew things were not right, but I hadn't put things together and seen how incredibly, networked it all is, and how prevalent. Doesn't matter where you look, there's the same kind of a matrix going on, some kind of artificially created reality that just doesn't exist at all. So you have to conceive of it, and then you end up a creature of conception as opposed to reality.
Yeah. And I think we all get the choice at some point. We all come across information somewhere and we get the choice then to accept, well, not to accept, but to, say that's interesting, I'm going to look into it, or to call the person a loony and walk away and join the herd again, don't we? So I think, I think we've all had the opportunity. I mean, obviously some of us are just, we don't know what it is, right? Some of us just see it a lot easier than others. But with star forts as well, they're kind of like the Nazca lines. As in, you can't really see the shapes until you're above them up in the air. So a lot of these forts were around, but if you're sort of on the ground with it, you don't understand that it's this massively intricate, geometric shape. And then they just put their cannons all over it, and you go, oh, it's for war, of course.
Cambell, are there tartaria trolls, like there are flat earth trolls, that are literally just anti-tartaria out there trying to just say, it's all nonsense? Because tartaria is the whole advanced civilization is not a theory, it's a fact. The question is, where did they come from? When were they here? When did they leave? Why did they leave? What happened? That's all stuff we're trying to figure out. But it's not a theory. It's right there. The evidence is
Yeah.
undisputable. But are there anti-Tartarians, like they're anti-flat earthers?
we used to get them. I haven't seen any for a while, to tell you the truth. And I think, you know, obviously we've got so much evidence now that we can show. I mean, obviously, you know, flat Earth does as well. But the difference is, you know, we don't walk into a classroom from when we're 5 and see, you know, buildings shown a different way, right? Like the whole thing with the flat Earth is the globe, and how it's so indoctrinated from school. Every movie we've gone to see shows the globe. You know, all the scientists, right? All the smart people, they all know about the globe and space and all that. So it's so heavily indoctrinated that people, they kick back against it because they think that if they accept it, that it changes who they are and it puts them in a different class. Right now, they're the loony or whatever, and they have to defend themselves. Whereas Tartaria doesn't sort of have that stigma attached to it. So we definitely don't, you know, I don't see a lot of them. In the start we did, and then we just started showing them buildings that had been excavated and literally had windows with glass in them under the ground. And it's like, well, okay, what do they say to that, right? But it doesn't have the stigma like the flat Earth. That's the main thing. That they've really gone hard with the flat Earth. They really don't want us to work that one out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a fascinating subject, that cognitive dissonance that gets created when you realize you've been wrong your whole entire life. And the people think that they have to then, you know, just be in pain for that for the rest of their life, and be in shame, or, you know, they're going to look bad or whatever it is. But to me, this is a hallmark of a lot of people in my world, is that we want to learn. We want the truth more than we want to be right or look good. And, you know, I think it's some really interesting stuff. I'm not sure if I'm going to do justice to it, but just in the last 24 hours, some new insights coming forward about those of us who can handle that pain of growing, really it's what it is, and those that can't. And it might possibly be that we have healthier predator energy, healthier masculine energy, healthier king hero energy. Yes. And it has its own pitfalls. Right, predator's predator. There's like that meaning we can see come through there, and so it can be equally or even more dangerous because it's higher energy. It's up the scale. You're not shaking in your boots like a victim, but you could be a killer. Like, take me, for example, when people started to wear masks and the social distancing and stickers on the floor and people wagging their fingers at you to telling you to go home. And, you know, I was ready to kill them. Like this big thing came up in me. Even we had our restrictions taken down. Well, most people are still wearing their masks. And it brought up again this huge, like, you just want to walk over and shake people. But I know that's not right, so I didn't do it. But that's the natures we have to contend with. Yeah. Just something to throw in there.
Yeah, I definitely think that, and I don't really like labels, right? But truth is, you know, we have to have, you know, well, not higher, but more, I guess, more ingrained morals and ethics and a backbone. Like, we have to stand up for ourselves, or else, you know, we're going to get destroyed, right? Like, we have to, and unfortunately, when we look at this, we have to defend ourselves. So without a backbone and that kind of, you know, predatory instinct, we'd be done before we started.
That's it.
It's such an amazing group of people that you know, that are researching this. And as you said, you know, it's people that will stand up, people that aren't afraid of ridicule, and willing to use their brains. And I've met a lot of people that had depression or substance abuse, and then they discovered flat Earth, and their depression went away, and they beat their habit, right? Because I think depression is your soul trying to talk to your conscious, to your mind, and your mind is just listening to the news and being steered away. Okay. And that's depressing. Your soul's like screaming, but there's too much noise in your head. And once you literally unplug from the heliocentric matrix, I think it gets rid of depression. Neo in the Matrix, he was depressed when he was plugged in. And then Neo at the end of the movie, he's unplugged. The state of the world didn't matter. It was him. He took back his life, his energy. And that's how I look at all of the Tartarian researchers, the flat Earth researchers. They're Neo at the end of the movie. They're Neo unplugged. And if you remember, Neo said, when he was on the table after he got unplugged. He got all the IVs in it. He goes, "Why do my eyes hurt?" And what did Morpheus say?
You've never used them before.
You've never used them before. And when I'm talking on a show with people that, you know, are ballers and they're just having me on because they're like, "Oh, let's make fun of this guy." And I show them so much information. They're like, in the middle of the show, they always go, "My brain hurts." And it's because you never used it before. You know, the one thing the elite do tell us, you remember they told us in school, we don't use 90% of our brain. That's by design. Yeah. They are shutting off 90% of our brain and putting us in this indoctrination camp to do it, right? You get out of that indoctrination camp, you start looking, right? There's so much processing that's going on. I mean, I can't look at anything anymore and not see the beauty and the amazingness of it.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Dave. I've actually been thinking about that for a while. Is like depression is, to me, is confusion. Like there's people that, you know, they're given all this information that does not make sense and they can't work out who they are, where they are, or when they are, and that's got to be kind of depressing.
Yeah, that's very interesting what you guys are talking about there. The depression, the way that I've looked into it, I've got a long history of that in my family, and certainly touched down with it myself at times. And it's got a very big part of apathy in it, right? It's a lack of feeling. Sometimes people think depression is sadness or sorrow and that kind of thing. It's like, no, actually, it's a step down on the scale of emotional energy. And people have either been through so much pain and trauma that they had to numb out, or because we've got so much stimulation and so much weaponization of that stimulation coming at us, it's a natural thing for the senses to shut down. And then, you know, fear's up there. So people would rather be depressed than they would want to be anxious, which is that unconscious fear happening. Right. So there's several gatekeepers to rise up that scale. And then you got the perils of lust and anger and pride. Right. So much harm has been caused in the world from those places. But it's all actually rigged in our favor in a really beautifully natural way. I'm curious, even just to tie it back into the star forts here, do you think, and I know this will all be conjecture because we can't necessarily prove anything, or let me know if you can, but do you think that this was a benevolent force, that this was created for the betterment of humanity?
Yeah.
Right on. Can you 100%. Talk about that?
Yeah. It's a worldwide grid and it's all connected, and there's just no way that could happen if everyone was fighting each other. It had to be a connected, unified, realm-wide civilization. And the other thing is the architecture. It's all the same. All the features are the same. Wherever you go, be it Australia, Asia, the USA, you'll find star forts with the same features. You'll find the buildings with the columns, with the domes, with the arched windows. You know, it's all the same stuff. So it's definitely one worldwide civilization. Yeah. Sorry, Dave.
Cambell, let me throw out an idea. All right, I'm not saying this is the truth. I'm just saying it's an idea. Okay, so the creator, we all know there's a creator because the Earth isn't from a Big Bang. Created this amazing realm with so much diversity and everything, right? And that the realm is filled with energy, free energy that can be harnessed. Okay, what did he do? Create it and then throw some humans down and go, good luck figuring it out for the next 5,000 years, right? Or perhaps did he lay down some infrastructure? Did he lay down some living buildings, lay down some kingdoms, and populate the world in whatever story you want to go with? And, you know, I don't know if this could be figured out. I think it was by design. It was by creation. That's my idea.
Yeah. I hear you. It's starting to look like that. I mean, it's just so perfect. It's so well done. It's so, it's integrated so well. Everything's clearly based on natural earth energies and nature. And there's so much work gone in. So much. Like everything is basically, all these old world buildings, they're all made of red brick. Like they're all made of red brick. And if you add those up, and even the star forts, there's one off Fort Jefferson is on a key in the ocean off Florida.
Off of Florida. It's the last key. It has so many bricks. There's we couldn't build it today.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
6 million red bricks in one building. So you times that by all the staff in all the buildings. How many bricks is? I mean, we're talking trillions. Now,
Wow.
how is it even possible for trillions of bricks to be laid all in mortar beds, all perfectly in these buildings? Now, that's a
Listen, you're a
massive job.
creator. You create a giant amusement park and you don't throw down any rides. Give me a break. All right, there's something to it. Hey,
So good.
quick shout out to my brother from another mother, Benjamin Balderson, in the
Oh,
chat,
it's Ben.
and the
Here.
man who's going to
Nice.
make sure that pit bulls never get depopulated because he is breeding pit bulls very fast.
There you go.
Yeah,
I can't see Ben for some reason. Oh, there he is. There he is. Hail Bellington. Yeah, shout out to everybody in the chat. I just have amazing people in this community. I really love you guys. I'm missing most of the comments because this is so good. And my cat would like to be part of this stream, so that means I have to go get him. Can you guys talk amongst yourself for just 1 minute? I'm going to hear you, and he can't stand it to be not here. So give me just 1 minute, but I'm still listening.
We'll allow it.
All right.
What else?
Okay, Dave. What have you got to say, Dave?
This building right here. This building right here. Look what's on the street here. These are horses and buggies, and there's dirt roads. Okay, who built this? Okay, who? Look at all the energy that went into the towers and the domes. I mean, this is everywhere.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And just think of the industry just to build that one building. You need, you need clay pits. You need kilns to fire the bricks. You need to be making lime and mortar. Then you need mines for the metal, foundries, factories. You need to create the domes, the glass. Like, there's so much that goes into it with the industry just before you can even think about building that thing. Like literally, and everywhere we look, especially as I'm from Australia, we're 200 years old, just over, and we see all these old buildings, and it's like, well, they built all these buildings, but there was no clay pits. Where were they making the bricks? There was no kilns.
Right.
Where were they making the metal? There was no foundries. Like, so where do all these materials come from? They just materialized, right?
And any guesses at all? Do you dream at night and have visions and get any downloads about that?
I think it's starting to look like it's like Dave suggested. This is a realm created for us, and it's created for us to learn and to have fun. We've just, we don't know. Something went wrong. We've been invaded by a parasite that is changing our experience. But it wasn't created like that. And of course they give us this big narrative of, oh, it's a prison planet. Oh, you're all slaves and rah. That's just the narrative. That's what they want us to believe. Because if you believe you're a slave, you're going to act like a slave. Mm-hmm. And so I really think that we've been invaded, and maybe that's part of the plan, right? Maybe that's to make us stand up and go, no, this is not on. We're going to stand in our power, and we're going to choose what we want. Because if we just keep going along and meandering and there's nothing, what do we learn, right? Where do we end up? There's that saying that says, and I'll get it wrong, but basically, people who have a good life turn out to be bad people, right? People who have a hard life turn out to be good people because they have struggle and they have to learn. So I think it was all created. Like Dave said, it's like a big amusement park, right?
I mean, what's wrong with throwing up a few buildings, incredible buildings on this incredible realm that are literally energetically connected? They're using the energy. I mean, I don't think somebody who's walking around, dragging their wife by the hair, looking for a lion to kill or something, and going, you know what? I think I'm going to make some red bricks, and I think I'm going to suck some energy out of the earth, and I'm going to transmit it to another building. I don't think that happened. I don't think that happened.
No, it's an interesting point. It's like, when does that happen? Like, when does that happen? Because tribal communities and that, the way we're shown it, they've got everything they need, right? They got their food, right. They got their community, they got their housing and that. So at what point do they stop and go, hang on, we need to build big buildings out of bricks?
Like, when does that happen? Doors with windows too high, with giant steps.
Yeah, because it's necessity is the mother of invention, right? These native type people, They've got everything that they want. Most of them don't want the other stuff that society brings in because they can see the bad that comes with it. But so yeah, I agree. I mean, because we know, right, evolution and this whole story of, you know, someone went off and found a nice field and built a house, and then his neighbor came up because it was good, you know, he started a farm. Then the you know, someone started a business, and before you knew it, there was a city and a town. You know, we don't see that. Every city we see is on a grid that they're pre-designed as a full city. That there's no city that's kind of been built up higgledy-piggledy. They don't exist. That's just a lie. So to build, if we look at it that way, every single city was completely designed. The whole thing before they started building it puts a whole nother, you know, shine on it, doesn't it? Because
Washington D.C. It's all grid lines and everything. And this is Salt Lake City, the church that's at the center of Salt Lake City, and then they kind of built all the buildings around it. But the story of when this was built, like, where did they get the concrete, the lime? You know, and there's a story of a lime. I think John Levy did a bunch of pieces on it.
Yep.
The lime mill that they made, like, how was that even made? And it's just like, when you look at the stories of this stuff, you know, even the stories of who the architect was, and, you know, they had a competition, right? Well, how did that work out? You know, the Pony Express came, delivered it. They went back and forth. All right, you 25-year-old guy, you win, even though you never designed a building before. And then they build it in a year. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, no.
And it's perfect, and it's standing 200 years later. Yeah, this is a thing. Every building is always a competition. Always a competition. And the World's Fairs, they literally say, "Oh, where we built." You know, there's one. I think it might be St. Louis, but basically they built 1,500 buildings. The biggest one was over 20 acres. One building, 20 acres under the roof. Built it all in 3 years. Had a fair for 9 months. Knocked it over. That's the story.
And knocked it over. Really incredible.
Didn't they move? One of them was like all made of glass, and they moved it.
Yeah. The Crystal Palace from the 1851 World Show in London. And this one was designed by a gardener, right? This 20-year-old gardener. He just decided, I'm just going to design the biggest, you know, glass and iron building in the world. And then suddenly he was a greenhouse designer, right? And he designed all these amazing greenhouses where they were growing, in England, they were growing pineapples and bananas and all these tropical fruits. And then they knocked that over, and it was a glass house. And it took them, it was like over a year to get this thing down because it was so well built. But the Crystal Palace, it's this glass building, all glass. It actually had a train station underneath it too, which I don't like to talk about. But yeah, they say that they built it in 9 months. Then they took it apart and they moved it and they put it back together. But when they put it back together, they put it back together slightly differently. So it didn't look the same. Didn't look like the same building, but it was. So don't ask any questions. It was. Just believe the narrative.
Well, it must have been.
It must have been. It's just crazy what they get us to believe.
Yes, it is crazy. And personally, I'm fascinated by civilization. And again, like, it's new in my life. I've had to look past it because so many things didn't make sense. But now when I think about the distinction between what organically rises naturally, which wouldn't be, you know, a gridded out city and all of the planning that goes into that, compared to, you know, organic versus organized. And again, do we have the same distinction between the predator and the prey? You know, where the prey side can exist, people come together, they just naturally start to share tasks and resources and know-how, and something will grow. But there comes a point, you know, and it might be around between 200 and 500 people, where all of a sudden you need organization in order to continue, for sure, growing. If you want to exist in a smaller community of people, then you can continue on without that. But at some point you need that superimposition. And what you guys are talking about is, you know, a worldwide scale. And even if it was just one star fort, never mind them all across the world, what kind of organization that would require in a time that we're told was all like low tech and and somewhere the dark ages fit in here. Maybe we can start talking about timelines, but have they completely inverted history where they're trying to make us believe right now is the height of science, the height of civilization, and really, the reality of it. And I'll turn it over to you now.
Yeah. We're not at the high point of civilization, put it that way. No, we're definitely not. It's been much higher before. And that again is the story they like to give us with evolution, right? We started off at one point, and since then it's been a gradual getting better until now we're at the epitome. Oh my God, we're so amazing. Look, we can blow each other up.
We are not at the peak of civilization. We are in the middle, close to the end of the movie Idiocracy. Okay.
Is that one I should see?
Oh my God! If you've not seen Idiocracy, you have to see it tonight. Idiocracy.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm going to Google it.
Idiocracy.
That sounds about right.
It's a documentary. Another one.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. There you go. Yeah, we're seeing the civilization crumble, and there was some debate whether this was going to be like a massive crash and you just wake up and everything's more or less gone. But it looks to be a little bit more like a crumble. What do you guys think?
Feels like for you.
Wait,
is it more of a crumble, or is it more of a crumble or a crash
of civilization now?
Yeah.
I think we've just been locked in a prison for so long, and I think we're actually breaking out of it now. I see this whole, growing community rising up above this prison that they've had us in, and seeing those world and taking our power back. And if you know anything about, like, if you've read the book The Tipping Point, or you watch things go up, and then they hockey stick right up, except global warming and the water burying us all, like Al Gore said. But I see us right at the corner of that hockey stick right now. We are shooting up. 2022 is the year of the awakening of people. I don't think it's going to take a decade. The question is, what are they going to try to do? And here's the thing. They're trying to distract us. They got the boogeyman floating through the air, so you got to put a fluoride paper mask over your face. And people got tired of that, so now they've got the bad man, Putin bad, and they're pounding the war drums, and people are afraid of nukes, right? That's how they're going to get people to go to war. We have to pound the war drums, or they can't go to war. So they're using the nuke hoax. Crow 777 Radio, episode 400. Subscribe, get that when it comes out, and then you will laugh at all of the nuke stuff. I mean, the fact that, when I was a kid, we did drills to go underneath our desk for a nuke attack, underneath our desk. And I always thought it was like stupid. I'm like, wait a minute, but that is ingrained in all of us. And, the Terminator, the scene where Sarah Connor, has the dreams of being blown up, that's in people's heads. Okay. Once you understand the nukes are a hoax, and the people, it's actually more triggering than flat Earth. You tell someone nuclear bombs aren't real and they get pissed because you are removing the fear that they've been clinging onto their whole life, right? It's become part of them. And when you try to remove that, that's wrapped around their spinal cord, they're like, don't touch that. That's my fear, right? If you get rid of that, I won't be able to be scared anymore, and I won't be able to pound the war drum. So,
yeah, and maybe I won't exist, right? Yeah, because we're so identified with it. It seems to be who we are.
Right, and so this is one of the top things right now. I'm trying to get people to go to. And if you want I hate saying a college education, because college is just more indoctrination, right? If you have a kid that's college age, or even yourself, anybody, have them listen to all the Crow episodes that come out, and then go through the back ones. Listen to like 4 a week. That's not a lot. It's like a college course, And then after a year, you're going to be one of the smarter people on the realm. You are. You're going to know so much about this system, and there's so many things that you can do. I mean, there's so many things that I do that I've learned from that and from other shows and from being aware of this world, and life just gets better and better and better. So get the fear out of your head. If you're afraid that we're overpopulated, look at the population numbers. They're lying. Okay.
Yeah.
Every American family could have a half an acre in Texas, and Texas will have a lot extra land. Australia, what did you say? It's huge.
Yeah, it's an acre or so, yeah.
Yeah, and they're hiding.
Yeah, everyone in Australia, and the rest of the world would be empty, and we'd still have space in Australia. So it's all, and that's based on the numbers they give us.
Right.
That's those numbers are right. But just on the nuclear, I mean, if you just sort of think, it's like everything, right? If we just take time and just think, just let go of the rhetoric and what we're told to think and all that, and just think for ourselves. It's like they tell us they dropped 2 nuclear bombs on Japan in the 40s, right? Those cities are now repopulated. There's no radiation. They tell us Chernobyl, right? That was going to kill half of Europe. That place, they've left it alone. So it's now like a nature reserve. It's like it's covered in nature. It's like there's no radiation there killing the plants or the animals. And then, of course, the last one was the Japanese one, right? Now we're going to lose all the oceans. Nothing happened. There's no radiation from any of these things. It's not detectable. It doesn't affect anything. It doesn't exist except in people's minds. That's where the radiation is.
Do you think that spills over into the EMFs? Oh, you're muted. Do you think there's because there's so much fear poured around EMFs? And do you think that's the similar thing that has been done with the nukes? I just had the thought for the first time.
I think it's worse than I think they make us think it's worse. And I think, definitely with all these, signals and Wi-Fi's and that, they're not the best. You don't want to live in a soup of different frequencies, but I think they ramp everything up. Yeah, sleep on your phone. But you see, if you do that, it might have an adverse effect. But if you then believe that doing that is going to harm you, it's going to have a much more bigger effect on you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Fear is all in your mind, and control also. Nobody has control over you other than in your imagination. But if you are living in fear, your cells are going to react to fear. Your body doesn't know the difference between a thought or a real situation, right? It's taking it in. So I just find like I try to think what scares me. I don't know anything that scares me anymore. Like I'm not scared. Yeah. Well, maybe.
Yeah.
One thing I wouldn't do, I wouldn't wear a mask. Well, I would never wear a mask, but I wouldn't wear one in front of Beth because she might just snap and beat the crap out of me.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, this is the interesting thing about fear as we go on this topic, is it's one of my all-time favorites, is that it's like the so-called CV virus that my friend calls me, oh, my dad's dying of it. It's like, no, he's not. No. But I of course can't say that. As soon as you're sick or you're vulnerable or you're close to somebody who's sick, and the vulnerability, and all of a sudden all of that narrative just finds a place because of the trauma. Right. And the majority, the fear you can feel if you're lucky, if you're brave enough to allow yourself to feel it. But the majority of it is unconscious programming, and it operates without our consent. It's all tacit agreement, like in law.
Yeah. And we're good people, so we're not allowed to make people feel bad. So we can't say, if someone says, oh, my dad died, we can't say, oh, well, COVID doesn't. So the thing doesn't exist, right? We can't say that because that makes us the bad guy, right? Oh, you're such an unfeeling. How dare you? Rah rah rah. And it's like, well, but it's the truth, But it's like Dave said before. That's their fear, right? They don't want to let go. They've built their little world around them that's all defined. It's built on fear, and that's what they like. It's comfortable for them.
Yeah, it's a perfect storm for our controllers, for sure. That are not even our controllers. Just like you said, Dave, we have full control.
There may be some toxins going around that are somehow getting into people, and maybe that's going on. So again, they're lying. They're lying so much about the numbers. I don't know if you've seen this, Beth. So they tell us there's 7.8 billion people on Earth, right? Let me just get out of here. Right. Hold on. 7.8 billion people. So, oops. Well, I kind of blew it there. 7.8 billion people. That's 31,536,000 seconds. If they made one of these every second, and there's 5 of these companies, and they all made one every second, every day without break. That's 157,680,000 per year. But let's say each of the 5 companies had 5 plants and they could make 5 every second. So 25 every second of every day, it would be 788,000 and change. That would take 10 years to make one dose for each person. Okay. And they're telling us that people got 2, 3, 4 already. Okay.
Yeah.
What are they lying about? What are they lying? They're lying about a lot of things, right? But this is complete and total bullshit. They haven't taught people how to deal with big numbers.
And what a beautiful way to use masculine energy, by the way, to go and just do the math, the simple math that otherwise we take it in and believe it and go on with our day. So it just speaks for itself. How beautiful is that? I love it.
That's why we have experts, right? We don't question, just ask the expert. They'll give you the answer.
Right.
And isn't that the biggest gift of this whole PSYOP of the past 2.5 years now, is that it turned many people into scientists and many people into researchers. And, I didn't want to go near the law, but here I am up to my eyeballs in the law community and learning things I didn't even want to know. And, you gain a lot of confidence in yourself. You're not that child, like you were talking about confusion, right? That's many people are just lost in confusion and then they try to numb out because that's painful. And that's for sure the child archetype that, that's how we were when we were developing our cognitive capacity and our senses and trying to match things up. But now we're adults and we can do this. We've got this, even though, you can carry the best of that blueprint of the child forward. It's really about sacred purpose and doing your thing. And I have to imagine for both of you, do you feel like you're in the pocket of your sacred purpose? Do you feel like that you're in this co-creation with your maker?
You know what, Beth, I want to answer that. I feel so in the groove right now that I'm not even making my own next decision. They're just coming to me, and things are just happening. And I really like it because, I get so many messages from people. Hey, you helped me overcome my addiction. You got me out of depression. You woke me up to this. I quit my slave job. I found Owen Benjamin through you, and he woke me up. And and all of these stories come together. People are using my app as a dating app now because
Oh, really?
Oh my God, Beth!
I wish I'd known.
It's incredible because here's the thing. 6 years ago, they said, "Oh, you're a flat earther. Good luck getting a job." Well, guess what? You're a glober. Good luck working for a flat earther because we don't hire globers, right? If you're a glober and you're hiring somebody, who are you going to hire? You're going to hire a flat earther, right? And if you're a flat earther, you want to work for another flat earther for sure, right? And so it's getting to the point now where we're doing all of that, and people are using the app to find people near them. And guess what? Whether you find you click on a dot, whether it's a guy or a girl, doesn't matter because they are a great person and end up being your best friend. Real quick, in the app, no one's even seen this yet. This is an update that's coming out hopefully tomorrow. When the dots appear here, you can now see who's filled out a profile. So if you look carefully, some of the dots have little chat heads in them, if you will. I don't know how big it is on the screen. I'll go a little bigger. Hold on. And you can see who has profiles, and you'll be able to see, who's active in the community and all sorts of stuff. So you can tap on a dot and up comes a person. There's Jenny G, and I could tap on her profile, and there she is, interested. She's in a relationship. Sorry, guys. So there you go. And it's just a great way to meet like-minded people. So there you go.
Yeah, much better than Tinder, guys. I mean, this is the thing, right? Everything that society makes us, it's all just so nefarious and so dirty, and it's always just got all these, all this crap attached to it. But then, in our community, we can do the same thing, but we can do it better. Like Dave's just gone out and just done this all on his own, and now, probably millions, is it, across, the realm of using it. Australia's, there's even a dot in Antarctica, isn't there, Dave?
There's two. Right.
There's two now.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
The whole thing is we can believe the rhetoric. We can believe the story, the you know, the author's authority, because that's what it's all a script, right? Authority are the authors, right? They tell us in the language. It's all spelling. So we can believe that, and if we do, that's what we'll create. We'll create from their book. Or we can go, this is all crap, let's just do it ourselves. And this is to do with everything. You know, there's all this, do you think this is bad for you? Do you think this is bad? Should I be worried about this? Should I be worried about that? When it comes down to it, we know that we're all energy, but to make it simple, we've all heard of the placebo effect, right? We know that people can take a sugar pill with nothing in it and they can cure themselves of cancer or anything. Now, if we can do that, why are we worried about anything?
And why? And just going back to what we were saying before, fear in your body, what's that doing for you? Is that curing you of anything? No, it's making you sick. It's making you dis-ease, not being at ease. You're dis-ease. Okay, that's what all of this is. And of course, toxins. You want to eat as have as clean a pure diet as you can, which is impossible in this world right now. But I believe your thoughts are even more important. For those of you that don't have the app, you can find everything at flatearthdave.com. Flatearthdave.com.
Yes, I put up a banner quickly just to let people know if you go and navigate to that right now in your browser, and the app will be there for download. I know I've enjoyed it myself. I haven't gone nearly as deep into it as I know that I could. Save that all for my.
Sorry. One of our guys, my friend Alex Lowry, he did a meetup. He did a Radius broadcast out, and we had a meetup. There was probably 70 people showed up. It was phenomenal, and just when you're around people, it's like ages, sexes, it all just goes away. It all becomes like we're all family members. It's like being around the energy of people is so amazing. The next big one is in South Carolina in October. Karen, if you're listening, I got the month right, called Flattoberfest, and check that out. It's going to be a big one.
Fantastic. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I'll just jump in quickly. It's one of my favorite subjects. I also am a business coach, and I was born and raised in the business world. I was a vice president by the time I'm 25, but then I was sick with cancer, stage 4 lymphoma by the time I'm 29, and it put a full stop to all of that. So I eventually did come back to business because it's just part of who I am. To me, the currency may completely destroy, but our value and our contribution to each other and the way that we create that circle of giving and receiving is, to me, very much based in nature. And the biggest gift that can happen is that you know who your people are. And it's harder to do when things aren't so extreme, like, because you see somebody with a muzzle on their face and you're like, oh, probably not my people. Like, even if they don't want to wear that thing, they are wearing that thing. And they've decided that they have to cooperate with something that's going to bring harm to them. And so you can start to weed out. And this is something that people don't even give themselves permission to do. It's like, oh, well, this has to be right for everybody or fair for everybody or available to anyone. It's like, no, it doesn't, actually. It has to be authentic and true. Like you were saying, Cambell, about authority, that it comes from your own inner authentic expression that is your authority. And then we can find each other. So again, bonus to the pandemic that we're much easier to find now.
Yeah. It's helping us. It's waking everyone up. And when you're around people and you don't have to be guarded, you can just be yourself. I mean, that of course, that's going to be fun, right? And that's what happens, with Tartaria and Flat Earth and all these people, is you can just be yourself. You don't have to, is that the wrong thing to say? Do I need to self-censor myself here? And the thing is, Flat Earth, we don't get triggered. Like, have you noticed that? Like, you talk to Flat Earth and you say something like, oh, yeah, okay. I mean, obviously there's some people, and if they hear the word globe, they go off a bit. But in general, it's not like we're hearing stuff and we're running around and yelling at people and you're wrong, because ultimately, I think, what we understand is that we're the creators, and this is the thing. When you understand you're in a realm that's been created by the creator, you've been created by the creator, that makes you a creator. Now, so you can't complain if you're a creator. All you can do is go to the mirror and go, why did I create this? I better create something different because this sucks, right?
Right. We all create our reality, and some of us, don't want to admit it because we look at our lives like, oh, my life is kind of crappy. Well, think about what you've been thinking your whole life. And I always say, you know, you can create anything you want, and you're your worst enemy. You are your own gatekeeper. And people are like, well, I want $1 million. And basically the energy you're sending out is, I don't have $1 million. I'll never have $1 million. And why don't I have $1 million? My life sucks. That's what you're sending out when you say that, because nobody wants $1 million. People want a certain type of life, energy in their life. And it's not about, you know, and it might take $1 million to do that, but you focus on what you want. You know how they say, the old saying, don't put the cart in front of the horse, right? Don't put the cart in front of the horse. Don't, no, that's you're supposed to put the cart in front of the horse. Put the thought in front of the manifestation, because you have everything. It's trying to get to you energetically. It's trying to manifest in your life, but it won't until you allow it in.
Yeah. There was a big awakening for me when I realized our creator is not working against me. It, in fact, is working for me all the time. And I'm the one doing the blocking. So, yeah.
The biggest conspiracy in the world is that the universe, the earth system, is conspiring to deliver you all of your thoughts. All of them, even the shitty ones.
And that's what they know. They know that we're so powerful. We're such powerful creators that they have to fill our minds with all this negative stuff so that we create crap, right?
Right.
Because once we can create anything, that they're finished.
How many people listening here watch mainstream news? I mean, it's so toxic.
Nobody.
I try to turn it on for like 5 minutes once a year, and I can't make it 2 minutes. I'm like, this is absolute insanity, right?
I know. Yeah,
Crazy.
if you need any inspiration for healing, then you just turn that on for 20 seconds and your blood pressure goes up and you feel like killing somebody. So, yeah. So I don't know how your time is, you guys, today, but do you want to move over and talk about Tartaria a little bit and see what, give us a little 101 on Tartaria, what that is for anybody that's not already familiar. And if there's any images that you can show us, just let me know if you get short of time, though.
Yeah, sure. So Tartaria was basically a country in Russia, in what is now is Russia. It was at one point it used to cover Russia, Asia, India, across into Europe, and it looks like even into the Americas. So it was this big civilization that slowly got smaller and smaller and smaller. You can see the maps. It sort of gets smaller until about 1800, where it disappears. And the big thing about it is we were never taught about it. We were never taught about this big civilization. And even now, when you look into it, they go, "Oh no, that wasn't a civilization. That was a region." But we have maps, we have kings lists, we have flags, all these things that you need to be a nation or an empire or whatever country to have. So they've wiped out. There's even a CIA document that literally says, "Yep, we went in and we tried to wipe this from the history pages." Like it's out there, a CIA document. So Tartaria, and of course it's become like sort of a phrase for old world research. But what it did, it just got people thinking. Well, if they could erase an entire section of our history, an entire civilization. One is why, and two is what else have they erased? What else are they hiding? And then, of course, you see the mud-flooded buildings, the similar architecture, the star forts, and you start to go, hang on. And very quickly you understand that there's another. We've been built on the top of another civilization, and it's the same as what they do to our minds, right? This is that when we're born, they start layering this program over the top of our mind, and their program is, you're a slave, you need to go to school, you need to get a job, work, then you die, blah, the story, right? And people believe that. Well, the same things happened in the physical world. They've literally overlaid their crappy, system, their crappy civilization over the top of the old one, literally building on top of the old buildings and all this kind of, ripping the facades off and all the nice domes and statues off the buildings, and then they just plaster them or paint them so that they're just these vacant, looking buildings. And so Tartaria basically it was, if we talk about it as the old civilization, it was a plane-wide civilization with free energy, where free travel, people were all integrated, no war that we know of. And so it was, and this is why, you know, Tartaria and Flat Earth is, you know, I like it so much as far as, you know, conspiracy theories, if you want to call it that, is these are empowering, right? When I started, all the conspiracy theories, like, you'd go down those holes, you'd come out in 6 months with, you know, mental issues because it was all bad. You know, you're being controlled. Look how many people they've killed. Look what they've done. Oh, they're so evil, blah, 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 blah. But this is empowering. This is, look what we used to do. Look what we used to build. We can get back there, right? We used to be united and integrated, and look what we did. Now they're splitting us up, right? So we can start to see their plan as well when we look at the past. And then obviously, you know, Flat Earth, it tells us where we are and how we got here. And because the biggest confusion, like I said before, is they take away, they don't want us to know where we are, when we are, or who we are. And that's confusing, right? And then, of course, you know, confusion, people get stressed out. They go and take pharmaceuticals, which just makes it all worse because every answer they've got for our problems just compounds the problem, right? We know this. So yeah, it's Tartaria, basically, yeah, big old world civilization, and it was really just the gateway to open up people's minds to showing us that we had a past that was technological, that was much closer than we've been told, and that was much more advanced than what we've got now. So in one sort of foul sweep, it just destroys the narrative that we've been given. So I think that's why it's so powerful.
And are the mud floods something different than Tartaria?
Yes and no. So the mud floods, the mud floods, we get this phenomenon of buildings that are buried, basically, that are buried. I've got some pics here if you want me to show some.
Yes, totally do.
And we see these everywhere, basically buildings that have been buried. So we don't know exactly what caused the mud flood, but it's looking more like it was to do, it wasn't one event, it was probably multiple events. Where are we?
Take your time.
No, is that it? Mud flood buildings? No, that's not it. That one. Okay, so this is a church. This is in the USA. And you can see this top picture here. This is the ground level. Okay, we can see the ground there. Now, just here, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little point there. All right.
Does it get any bigger?
Church, well, we get this. So, can you see that? Is that a big picture or is it small?
Yeah, it's good.
Good. So this bit here, this is the top of that door. That bit there. Is
wow.
Okay, so they've uncovered this. This is the old level here. All this was buried. Massive doorway, windows, arches, all this, a whole nother level underground.
So, Beth, when you say our mud floods the same as Tartaria, the mud floods happened during the Tartarian reign, if you will.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That helps.
And so we're trying to figure out, was it a worldwide mud flood? Was it regional? We can talk about that for a long time, but there's no question. I mean, look at this. I mean, look at everything.
Where is this?
Incredible.
This is Egypt. So this is obviously a much older, you can see by the size, this is a much bigger building or structure. And so the mud floods, you know, a lot of people sort of think, oh, you know, was it the Great Flood? And they tend to think about it as one event. But I think as we get into it, we're starting to discover that there was just lots and lots of multiple events that were covering just smaller areas. But the fact is that we can't get away from is this stuff is everywhere. So we get these windows. See this window here?
Right, that would get flooded if it rains. It's going straight into the ground.
Right? Now, who would get flooded? Exactly. That's ridiculous. No architect worth their salt would ever design that. It just does not make sense. And what happened is we started seeing this, and this is when we were getting the trolls, right? And everyone would call us stupid. They're, oh, no, they're just basements, and they're this, and they're that. But what happened is, let me just see. I might need to get a better photo here. is we started getting finding all these photos where they'd actually you know, they dug out roads and stuff to do city works, and they just uncovered lower
The New York
stories.
City one. The New York City one you're looking for, right?
I'm looking for one of those.
There's roads on top of buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did I also hear you say that it couldn't be explained by just like what we think of to be a natural occurrence of a mud flood, that it's like the way that the mud came down?
I don't know about that. Maybe Cambell has some ideas.
Yeah, so hang on,
right, like Juriel is saying, not floods, liquefaction.
Yes, the liquefaction is where the basically the ground turns to like quicksand, and oh my gosh, I've got a million pictures coming up. And so buildings can sink, and we still get these. We still get these, you know, these. Stop that share. These mud floods. But what happens with a mud flood is buildings tend to go on angles, right? They don't tend to sink straight down. So with liquefaction, they don't sink straight down. They all go sideways. So that was a big theory, but I think it tends to be. I think we're looking at inundation. I think a lot of it is maybe volcanic ash or things dropping from the sky, because in every city we have these streets that are on angles, that they're just hills, and the buildings literally go back into the hill. So it looks like the mud has literally come in and flowed rather than dropping from the sky, or rather than the buildings dropping into the ground. So I think that we're looking at a lot of events that were specific to certain areas, and they'd go in and they'd sort of destroy that area, like Pompeii, right? They give us this story of Pompeii, just one little area completely covered, completely mud flooded, right? All covered up, and just one area. And I think that's what we're looking at, is lots of different mini cyclical resets. I think, because they used to teach catastrophism in school. Everyone used to know that there are cyclical catastrophes down here. They just are, but they've taken that out of our knowledge. And the thing is, it doesn't mean that every time we have these, it's a worldwide flood and everything gets destroyed. Most of them are small and specific to areas, but then it looks like every couple of thousand years or so we get hit by a big one. So I'd see it as, what we see in the cities. It looks like that it's come from the sky. That's just what it looks like, that it's come down and it's flowed through the cities. And of course, in every city, like we have a high street. Why are they called high street? Is that the high ground? We have all these things. So it's very interesting. Let me see if I've got a picture for you.
I was just going to say, yeah, you're not sharing anymore in case you think you are.
Yeah, so this image here.
Yeah, so any thought of it being, for example, a kind of extinction event, engineered extinction event, like what we're experiencing right now? Do you think it's anything to do with that, or totally not? No. Yeah.
No, I think it's all a scam. I think, meteors coming from space and killing dinosaurs and all these massive cataclysms because it's all fear, right? Something to be scared of, something that we can't control, because we're spinning out of control, at 666,000 miles a second or whatever, every direction, and it's confusing, and there's stuff out there that we can't control. It just might come and hit Earth and destroy us all tomorrow, right? And this is it. It's just all fear. And when you let go of that fear and you look around, you realize that's all it is. There's nothing attached to it but ourselves.
And why would they cover this up? And
false evidence appearing real is fear.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so how is this treated in the mainstream? The mud floods and evidence of tartaria. Like, is there a reason they don't want us to be aware of it right now?
Sure.
Yeah, because it doesn't fit the narrative. They just ignore it and call us silly, like they do with everything. But they have nothing to back themselves up.
You might discover that we're not at the peak of intelligence, and that maybe the world is flat.
Right. Yeah. Right. And history is not what we've been told.
Yeah. If we understand that we used to have free energy and free power everywhere, and all these buildings were literally built to power themselves and to provide free energy. So no one had to pay bills. Right? You think of a world where you don't have to pay bills, you can grow your own food. I mean, why do you need a job?
You'll never have a ruling class that will educate its people to the point where they could overtake them. Okay, they educate us to be slaves for them. That's it. No one's gonna do that.
Yeah, it's a domestication process, right?
Yeah.
Take any free thinkers and make sure they don't have that. I often think of my cats. They're domesticated predators. And, you know, one of them will not survive in the wild. It just won't, it's gone from her. I started to feed her raw meat, and I swear I can feel it. I can see it change her constitution in that reconnection to something remotely natural. But yeah, I think we're all in the same boat, having been domesticated, and natural instincts gone really deep into the unconscious.
Yeah.
What are we looking at here?
So this is in Russia, and this is, again, they've done just city works, you know, so they've dug up the street to lay pipes or whatever. And you can see up here, this is the road, and you can see this kind of line across here. All this brown stuff was under the ground. Now, we can see this line here. So this part of the window was above the street level. This was under the ground. This has got glass in it. This has got glass in it. These are glass panels in windows that were completely buried under the ground. Here's a doorway that's been boarded up. Here's a door with a door in it. Okay, these were all under the ground.
Wow. And
you can see just here, this is, you know, a window, and this was actually a huge door, and they've just covered half of it up. And we see this stuff everywhere, and you can see even these windows they've filled in, right? Because this would have been a giant-sized building. You can see this massive crane down here, how big it is. I mean, it doesn't even make a mark on the first floor of this building. So this is an oversized building, which is another thing. All these buildings, well, not all of them, but a lot of them were built for bigger people than us.
Right. Yeah. Speaking to the possibility that there were giants here, or what conclusions do you like to draw?
Yeah, we got the photos of them.
It's not a possibility. It's just a fact.
It's a fact. It's a complete fact.
And so what story do they tell to try to, you know, because the excavation has been done, you can see the building, that the clear evidence is right there, the oversized doors and windows.
They don't say
anything. They just say nothing.
No, they're just trying to ignore it, trying to hide it up. You know, if anyone actually asks any, you know, valid questions, that they just give some silly, some silly excuse, and it's always just specific to that one building. Oh, it's just in this building. Oh, they did something and it got buried and they forgot about it. But it's everywhere. This stuff is absolutely everywhere. You know, and they even go along and do things like bring in basements. You know, so now people think that a lot of these houses were built with basements, but they weren't. You don't build, you know, doors and windows underground in your basement. It doesn't make sense. But they have no explanation that they can give, and this is their problem: is they've painted themselves into a corner that they can't escape from. Even these are like New York flats, right? These have mudflood windows. See, going into the ground here. So even these old buildings, you know.
Yeah, so note to self: if you're living in the city, you don't want to live on the ground floor.
Exactly.
On dirt one day.
You could be, yeah.
I've always wanted to live up. Maybe that's why. And would this be a good way? Go ahead.
So here's one that it's probably. Let's see if the next picture is better. That they uncovered, and we've got another one. Yeah, this one. And you can see this is the old level of the road, and this is like the one on a hill. And we see there's a lot where we don't, you know, they're not flat. And of course, if you're going to build a building, it has to be built somewhere flat. But this one, that's the old road level, and this is what they've dug out. And underneath, they found this whole other story. We've got windows down here. We've got columns. It's just all sitting there underground.
Crazy.
Yeah, looks like they even found some train tracks down there.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Insane. And do you guys want to talk about also how they duped us out of 1,000 years and why that might be?
Yeah. So there is a lot of research. There is a guy called Fomenko, who's a Russian mathematician who was studying like solar phenomena, so eclipses and things like this, and trying to put them in the right dates. And he found out that none of the dates matched. So they'd say, oh, you know, this date there was, you know, an eclipse, and he because now we have like astronomy software where you can literally go back in time and see the sky as it was, and he's going, oh, that's not right. And so he sort of did some research and worked out that basically there's been all this time added to the calendar, and what it is we have all these pictures. They used to date things in the year of our Lord, and they would write that as a J for Jesus or an I for Iusa. So the date would be like J804, which would be in the year of our Lord 804. And then in the 1600s, we had Josephus Justus Scaliger come along, who was one of those hat people. I don't know if I can say the word. And he basically was doing the translations. The jazz.
Ah, thank you.
Yeah, got it. Those type.
Yeah.
And he was translating all the books from Latin to like French and English and stuff. And basically, the story is that at that point, all these I's and J's got changed into ones. So if they're looking at a date that is J804, it got changed to 1804, which effectively added 1,000 years to our calendar. And what that also did is that gave them another 1,000 years to write their story in. Because this is why they like to push stuff back into the past. It gives them more time to rewrite history, right? His story. That's what history is. It's not our story. It's his story. Mm-hmm. So it gives it more time to rewrite it. And of course, what is that 1,000 years? The Dark Ages, where nothing happened. Go figure.
Right.
So, and that, excuse me, that's just one point. Like we've had calendar changes. We've had, they've rewritten the calendar through the Christian church, trying to find, you know, the date of creation and all this. So there's been a lot of calendar changes, and it's out. As far as we can see, it's like about 1,500 years that have been that they were out. Basically, we're actually in the year. It's around 5,700 or something like that. So we're completely confused, right? That we don't know when we are, or who we are, or where we are, and this is what they want us. They want us, you know, they want to keep us in confusionism, right?
And what we are. People don't know what we are either.
What we are. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what all this research is telling us, right? It's telling us this is where you are.
That is depressing. If you don't know who, where, what you are, when you are, that's depressing. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's really horrible. And you know, I believe that the spark of life in us, our soul, if you will, it knows the truth. It is our true self, and it's trying to communicate with you, but people just are too lost in their minds.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
People that they're just too lost in their own heads. You got to quiet your mind, and you have to look, and you have to think. And now we have this incredible gift that most people have been indoctrinated just to ignore, to memorize, regurgitate, believe, right? Belief is the enemy of knowing, and ego is the protector of belief.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Very good. And so the Dark Ages, what is the official narrative on that? They just tell you nothing, call it the Dark Ages, and expect you to move on, pretty much?
Pretty much.
Same with tartaria, or the mud floods, I mean.
It's just, you know, pestilence, disease, famine, people running around killing themselves. And that's about all there is to be told, right? And they literally just say, you know, civilization fell into a decline. Nothing happened for sort of 500 or 600 years, and then we slowly started, you know, coming out of that. I mean, that whole story doesn't even that doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm, if you fell into a decline, every person in that decline would be trying to make a better life for themselves. They wouldn't be born and going, just crap here. Oh, well, I guess this is my lot. I'll just sit in the mud and starve to death. Well, humans don't do that. You know, we're pre-wired to try and make things better. So the whole narrative just doesn't make sense, right?
And so what's more likely then, that if, you know, it's up to 1,500 years that they've added to this history?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, if you look at it, it was done in the 1600s. So, literally, things that we think are in the 1500s weren't. They were in, you know, so things from the 500s is what was the 1500s, right? So, so it brings that history a lot closer to us, and all these big civilizations. And of course, they tell us all about these older civilizations and Rome and Greece and, you know, the Etruscans and all these different things. They just leave out certain facts. They go on the back and they doctor the books. They take out, you know, the fact that there was technology and trams in the cities and things like this.
Right. If the narrative that they tell us is true, we should have pictures and stories and books of red brick factories and red brick transportation on, you know, how they're moving these bricks all over the realm. I mean, who came up with the brick, right? Who?
Exactly.
Very interesting.
Train tracks, you know, we find all these pictures, but we don't find very many pictures of them laying tracks in the 1800s, late 1800s. But we find a lot of them uncovering tracks, literally digging them out of the ground.
Yeah.
It's all,
so two things.
It's all in civilization.
Right. Yeah, two things come to mind. And so, you know, if you take off that 1,000 years or 1,500 years, then it gets us much closer to the life of Christ when time is actually, you know, so-called beginning in that calendar system. So that to me is super relevant. And do you guys think or speak about that at all?
I don't know a lot, but I know the theory of the 1,000 years. There's this in the Bible, I think it is. It talks about the 1,000-year reign of Christ, where basically he's down here and everything is nice and awesome, and you know, we get to live our lives for 1,000 years, and after that the devils are loosed upon the earth for 200 years to basically run amok, and after that is Armageddon, right? The great unveiling. They get thrown back in the pit, and everything goes good again. So a lot of people talk about that because obviously with the Tartarian buildings, right, it looks like that there was this amazing civilization with free energy and not just free energy, you know, like the cathedrals and things, and, you know, the churches, the places that we're told are for religion and the glory of God. They actually were for the glory of God, right? But not for the glory of the Christian God or whatever. It's for the Creator. It's frequency, because that's what the creation is. It's frequency and vibration. So these buildings were giving out literally good vibes, right?
And those old world organs are incredible. Yeah, the organs are insane.
Yeah, the acoustics are no mistake at all. It's the first thing I do when I go into a fancy building is sing, whether they invite me to or not.
I've been into a couple churches and synagogues that have these old world organs, and they never fire them up. Like, oh, we're not turning it on. No, you know, I'm like, what do you have it for?
Actually, there's a lot of buildings where they've got the organs, but they've taken them apart and they're literally sitting in pieces in the basement.
Wow.
Like it's like it's like to these people, they like see an organ and bad, quick, destroy it. That could actually help people. Because every you know, bells, organs and choirs, right? It's all frequency, it's all vibration. And we know that kind of stuff makes you feel good, you know, that those kind of sounds, and that's what it was. No, amplifying good vibration. So that's what, to me, that's what the glory of God was. Yeah. Right? You go in and you actually feel God. You feel that vibration. You get on that frequency. You know, it's not going there and praying to some man on a cloud that we don't connect with. It was much more, we are the creation, and it's the creator. We're part of it, right? It's a symbiotic relationship. It's not us down here and someone up there. So it was much more integrated the way they looked at it.
Yeah, beautiful. The last question, and this isn't really a question, just an observation about my own ancestors, that they were persecuted in Russia. They were actually from Germany. Catherine the Great brought them over to work the land. And that didn't go well because they ended up wealthy and there was the poor people, or at least this is how the narrative goes. But I can't help wondering if, you know, with that crushing of the communists, that it was like they were onto something. They were dangerous somehow. These weren't just simple people who could work the land. They're just, it seems to me, I don't know if you have any take on that at all, but just, I think there's more to it.
Yeah. I mean, but they were dispersing populations, and they're still doing it, right? They love to mix up populations, so no one's got any heritage or anything like that, any family around them. And so point. I think that when they were sent, like, basically, there's channels, and they go and they find abandoned buildings, and they go and do exploring in them. Now, some of these buildings they find are literally in the middle of nowhere, like they're just by themselves in the middle of nowhere, and they'll go in there, and these buildings will have electricity running in them. They're not connected to a grid, not connected to anything, and they're still functioning. So if we're finding them now, imagine what was around 100 years ago, 200 years ago, and people could literally go out, find a house with the free energy and God knows what else in it, and you'd be halfway, there, right, to being successful, because you've got all these things that can help make you successful. It's much different to going out and it's like, well, here's a piece of dirt. Now, good luck finding water, build your house, grow a crop, start from nothing. So definitely, if people went out and they happen to get, be put in the right area and find the right stuff, then that could definitely, catapult people. And that's what those who wish to rule us did, right? What they did is they stole buildings that are made from masonry, right? So they got their free masonry, right? And these people, they literally call them robber barons. Just look up robber barons from the 1900s. They literally called, because they came in, they stole everything. They just said, it's ours now. We've got all the tech. Now you can pay us for the power that we just stole. We pay them for everything because they stole the power. And now they trick us, and every 3 or 4 years we go back and we elect them back into power.
Mm-hmm.
We're agreeing. Wow. So this is all, in the end, we're agreeing. If we go to the polling booth, we're agreeing that they should rule us. So it gets back to law as well, and maritime and all this kind of stuff, and we have to, we have to agree, or else they can't do it. And that's the biggest scam, is they get us all to agree and to do these stupid things and run around and follow the crowd. And if you don't follow the crowd, or you're the weirdo, and just be careful, the police are going to come and get you. But funny thing is, you talk to these people, the police never turn up and get them. The jails aren't full of people who aren't complying. I can guarantee you it. It's just fear. So mm-hmm. that's it's just all smoke and mirrors. So we just got to, there's a saying I really like is the statue's not finished when there's nothing more to add. The statue is finished when there's nothing more to take away.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do. Yeah. We need to strip all the crap that we've been taught, all this layering, all this programming, get back to who we truly are, and then we'll be able to see again. And it makes sense. It's not that hard.
Exactly. And then the creation is such a natural, again, organic, coming straight through the spirit. As soon as you take away enough of what's not you, your energy rises, and that starts to pull you. That relationship that I now call, that co-creation with God, I now call that freedom that you cannot define for any other person but yourself. And that will change and evolve as you do. But that's so beautiful. I love that. I love that. Amazing. And so if you had another, say, 15 minutes or so, can we switch over into Flat Earth, even though we're in really good company? We're in family here. And how did you guys the two of you meet, by the way?
Oh, geez, when did we? I think Dave sent me an email and said, you should have me on your show, as he does to most people. So I think that's I knew him, but I think that's where our first, when we
we might have. There was like a panel show, and then you did something. Yeah. We reached out. Somebody, I don't know.
It's like Dave said before, when you get into this kind of topic, things and people just pop up into your experience, and they do it because they're supposed to be there, And so most of these people are like, where did you? Oh, I don't know, but we did, and it was awesome. And it's all this, the right people turn up at the right time when you're focused on the right thing. you put out the energy, you attract the right people. So yeah, I think this is our third or fourth show together. Hopefully we'll do some more. But yeah, Dave, tell us about the flat Earth. This is your specialty.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You know what? I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do next. I really don't. It just comes to me. Like I get an idea for a video. It just like comes out of nowhere. I'll make the video. And if those of you that are familiar with my channel, all my videos are very short, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. And I like having music in the background because I don't like talking on video. Isn't that weird? Okay. And so I'll do it. I have images and I put up words and stuff. And then I like to put some music behind it. I have some good, good emotional music. And I'll find a song and I'll put it in and the song will literally match up. All of the beat changes will match up with the edits like magical. Like I have to make very few edits. And I don't know what this is. I feel it is, divine, for lack of a better word, information coming to me. And they come out just at the right times. I'll see a horrible troll video and I'm like, I got an idea. And I'll just, that'll inspire me to do a video that I like. Right. And so, I came across Cambell at a certain time and we did some shows together. Came out great. We were on SGT Report. He wants to have us back on again. The information, we're lucky, Beth. The stuff that you're talking about, the stuff that Cambell's talking about, me, Crow, all of these stuff is fascinating for anybody willing to listen, right? Mm-hmm. We're on the right side of the fence, right? We're on the side of truth and interest and uplifting, information. So I don't know how we can fail.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't know if I answered the question, beautiful. But
that's good. That's good. Yeah, no. And if I could ask, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we can only believe if we believe we can.
Right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's the thing. That's the programming, right? If it's telling you you can't, then you can't. And actually the can part is also programming. So this is very interesting to let go of the high side of it, because we're all real comfortable feeling like we can and there's confidence in there. But you let all of that go, and on the other side you see, oh, that wasn't even a subject. That's not even real. That's all an imposition from the outside, forming consciousness and making us want to be like that, right? So you can blow holes in this whole entire matrix. And so Dave, what I would be most curious about is, like, cosmologically, what they've done to us. When you think, when you believe in the mainstream that there is space, endless space out there, it's not navigable. Like you would need all this equipment and a rocket and a suit and all that kind of stuff to even survive it. It's a vacuum and there's black holes and meteors shooting in every direction, like danger, all of this kind of stuff. So that's where I would like to start, just with the whole psyche of that, like what that creates. And I know it harkens back to pretty much everything we've been saying.
It's all, the heliocentric system is a fear-based system. We could be taken out by an asteroid while we're lost in space. The sun could blow up, supernova. We're running out, with limited resources. It's all about fear. We're spinning, corkscrewing through space, out of control, in a godless or distant God universe. That's horrifying. And that is, all of those motions that you have to imagine that are going on is offsetting. Because, as I said, when you're in fear, a fear of nuclear bombs, that's all in your cell, every cell of your body. When you believe this is where you live, traveling 4.5 billion miles a year, corkscrewing through space, right, with all this crazy stuff happening, that is the core of your belief. That's wrapped around your spinal cord. That's in every molecule in your body, has that. And that is quite offsetting. I mean, think about all of these motions. Close your eyes, meditate on it. And if you don't throw up, you might fall down. But then think about the flat earth and how it's perfectly stationary, how we're at the basement of the universe, okay? How water always lays flat, and how it's contained and we're safe. We're not moving. If there's a tiny earthquake, you feel it. That's a tiny bit of movement, right? But we're supposedly traveling in all these directions. So it's literally a fear-based system, because if you're in that fear-based system, then it can convince you that the boogeyman is going to fly through the air and a little piece of paper might protect you, but it probably won't. And they can convince you of everything. This is their biggest secret, because everyone that wakes up to this wakes up to everything else. I woke people up to the New York event, the Connecticut event, the Boston event, and they go right back to sleep, right? They're like, oh, yeah, but, you know, they make an excuse. You wake someone up to the reality of our world. Then they see it. Then they're unplugged from the matrix. They stop feeding the system. And that's why these topics we're talking about, they're all the same. They're all part of the fear-based system. Everyone get out of fear, do something, say something, right? Everybody can do something.
And I know you have a really good answer to this. Maybe you just answered, but it's that question of like, okay, well, we got bigger fish to fry and we got big problems. And yeah, the earth might not be a ball, but who cares right now? Like that's not our biggest problem. So what's your response to that?
My response is, how can you make a proper decision if the foundation of where you're standing is not even a foundation? You need to take care of yourself first. You need to center yourself. You need to know who you are, where you are, what you are, why you are. You need to know all of these things to harness that energy, right? If you're spinning out of control, lost in space, you're disconnected. You're only using 10% of your brain, right? Like they tell you. And when you connect to the earth and you get those free electrons and you center yourself and you know where you are and you realize that your thoughts actually do create reality, right? Then you can deal with these bigger problems. Look at all of us. Have any of us been affected by the boogeyman? Okay. The aerial boogeyman? No. Okay. Because we're eliminating that fear. We're eliminating that ridiculous belief system. And, you know, the more we do this, the more we wake up to it, you know, that this is the underlying cause. The underlying cause is the lie of where we are, right? You can't, you know, if when everybody that's listening to us, except the few trolls that were there, you all know that all of this other stuff is bullshit. It's all nonsense, from nukes to running out of food to paying high prices for gasoline. We know it's all nonsense. And the more of us that know, the more of us that wake up, then we take it back. We take it back. I hope I answered the question.
You really did. And I like my friend said that it's also a big deal that they're lying to us, right? That this is something it's so easy to look past, that all that harm has taken place, all the deception. And then you get out the other side and you know the truth and you're like, whew, okay, now I'm just going to move forward and go create something good in the world. But there's, you know, this is, how do you contend with that and come up against it, which I don't think there's really necessarily a way to do that either, other than heal from the deception itself.
Oxbow Spirit in chat just said, how do actions start? How action started with a thought. Campbell just thought of putting his glasses on over his eyes so he can see, and then he did an action, and it happened. Right? You just created your reality.
Yeah, in India they say even before a thought there's a vritti. There's a little wave that comes, and then that becomes a thought.
Yeah. Everything is created at least twice. It always has to be created first in our minds before we can create it in reality. And, you know, and just action, right? That's something that people, you know, we're taught not to do it. Most people just sit on their couch these days and watch other people doing things. You know, they get ideas and they don't trust themselves enough to go out. And it comes to the same thing, because they believe that they're, you know, some poor little slave living on a planet spinning out of control and all this kind of stuff. But when you understand that you're the creation, you know, you're the ultimate creation. You were created to be here and to experience this. And it puts a different spin on it. Then you can start to say, well, you know, these people who are trying to rule us, that they shouldn't be there. You know, let's give them no energy and go off and build our own place. Because this is a big thing, right? They try so hard to make us believe that they should be here, that they should be in control, that everything's good and evil. Oh, there's always bad. There's always, you know, one bad apple spoils the bunch, and all this kind of stuff. It's everywhere. But we don't have to believe that. It's just a thought. It's just a theory. It's not necessarily true. We could believe, well, they're not supposed to be here. And if we focus on what we want and not on them, they're going to disappear.
Right.
Placebo effect, right?
The elite, you know, they say they're the 1%. They're the 1/10 of 1/100th of 1%. They're nobody. And the only power they have is in our imagination. And people are so sucked into this ridiculous system that we give them the power. We give them, everybody stop. Just say no. What are they going to do? You know, what could they do? They couldn't even take over a neighborhood. They couldn't even take over a small neighborhood. Okay? They're nobody.
We got to be scared of bloody Klaus Anal Schwab and bloody Jojo and all these people. They're all pathetic fools. That they are the most pathetic, you know, humans you've ever seen. What could they possibly do if we all just went, no, you guys suck, go away? What could they do? Only with their minions and only with strong, brainwashed humans protecting them can they exist. You know,
exactly.
Protecting them, right?
That's it. It's why I've become fascinated in the law studies with the private membership associations. I've been hosting Jacqueline Milne quite often, and she's helping us in the back end to start building out our own associations. I have Amanda Vollmer and Dean Clifford are going to be on. I don't know if you know them both, but they're coming on the 22nd. Yeah, pretty excited. So just announcing that. And it's going to be exactly that subject that ultimately, you know, it's not about going to war with these people. They're warriors. They're ready for that, whether it's starvation or guns or whatever it would be. But if we just simply slip out of the situation, we're just not there anymore, and they become less and less relevant. Right? We take control and responsibility, which I've seen you, Cambell, talk a lot about, right? That self-response. If we actually assume responsibility for creating civilization, then it's going to balance out what's out of balance.
Yeah, we are the power, and it's like Dave has kept saying, their only trick or their only, you know, skill or power is just to make us believe their lies. So we just need to, and that's why, you know, these topics are so good at waking people up. You know, I said before, you know, like it's most of the old school, you know, conspiracy theory was stuff that was like, you'd tell someone, oh, look, they're doing this in the banking system and the law system. And the reaction is, yeah, that'd be right. Oh, they're just ripping us off. Poor little me. Oh, God, I'm just a slave. Look how bad they're treating us. And but with this information, it's the opposite. It's like, no, God, no. You're the creator. You're meant to be here. They're not. You know, we created all this stuff, not them. So it's coming from a place of empowerment rather than, you know, depowerment, which all the old stuff used to be. So I think we've really turned a corner with getting into these topics and really starting to show a future that we can build. You know, this is exciting. It's like we can go somewhere. You know, if we're slaves in a system and we've got banking to deal with, and oh God, they've got us here, and then you know, we're stuck, right? So, and again, that's all just the way we look at it and think about it.
Exactly. So there was one question that came for you, Dave, about the hollow earth. And I said I would ask that. And thank you so much for the tip on Rockfin, by the way. Sweet Juris, I believe that was from.
The question about the hollow earth. So the hollow earth, in my mind, is just another prison for your mind. It's another story. You know, I think it started with Admiral Byrd, where after he died, I believe notes came out which didn't have the same style as his notes, saying that he went in and visited aliens. And I think it's just another thing to throw people off track. Because if you live on a hollow earth, you still live on a ball in a heliocentric world, right? The moon is hollow. I've quoted so many times that when they crashed a rocket into the moon, it rang like a bell. And why it's ringing like a bell? You can see the Great Wall of China. These are things that I said. Okay?
So fun.
But because somebody told me, and I believe them because I'm a trusting person. That's another way they get away with it. We're all good people, and we trust. And if they say this is your teacher, this guy's wearing a white lab coat, he wears a bow tie, he has to be telling the truth.
Yeah, you actually got it. That's awesome. And what would be your top 3 points? If there's all the points and all the research you've ever done, no pressure, but what are the top 3 ones, say for somebody brand new to this? I've got somebody in mind in particular that might be watching right now who is certainly not against. What's yours?
What got me was parallax, or the lack of parallax. The stars
And can
don't
you
move.
define what's the
Yeah,
parallax again?
parallax is so if we're spinning on a planet and we're here and we're moving, as we move, the stars we look at aren't moving, so they should change in proportion, in position to each other. Yeah.
Right.
So like
Ah,
star signs are impossible on a globe if we're spinning through space. Like, we should not be able to see the same star sign in the stars that they saw 1,000 years ago. It's impossible. It's completely impossible. And the stars, we've got star charts back from thousands of years ago. Nothing ever changes. And even, even they're even trying to say, oh, the pole star changes now, but show me the proof of that.
Even their story with the pole star, that they say that 4,000 years ago there was a different pole star, and 4,000 years ago there's going to be another pole star. Well, if that's the case, we have monuments like Stonehenge, where you look through the hole and the North Star is there. Well, it's been up for over 40 years. According to them, it should have moved almost a full degree. Even a half a degree would knock it way out of that hole, but it's still there. It hasn't moved. Okay. So even their story of the stars are so far away, there's no parallax, which is ridiculous. It's fallen apart. It's over.
Yeah.
Right. Beautiful. I like this. Yeah. And to me, this is an easy one that I can wrap my head around, that water finds its level. You always see it flat as anything. Yeah. Is there one more? If people had a little bit of a, arrow in their quiver.
You can't have a pressurized system adjacent to a vacuum, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't work. And then they say, well, gravity holds it down. Well, if gravity's holding it down, I can hold my teacup here. I can suck all the air out of the room, and the air would stay in my cup because gravity's holding it in. Well, we know that doesn't happen. Okay.
Yeah.
Absolute insanity. You know what? You know what the best proof of flat Earth is? That there's no globe proof.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at personally. You cannot prove that to me anymore. Absolutely nothing resonates with my senses. Now, when I look up and I see the moon and the sun and the stars, it's so perfect. The rainbow is a great proof for the shape of our little home here where we're at.
Yeah.
And now I feel completely related to my sky and these heavenly bodies. It's a whole different life just from that one little tweak.
And, the sky's a perfect.
Right. And I, as I said before, that these old buildings were living in the way I see it, as part of the living earth, and all the luminaries we see in the sky, they're all living also. That the non-physical heaven that, we talk about, it's right there. It's right above us. It's right here. The luminaries are all within it. Okay. And all of the wandering stars are named after gods. Okay. They're planets. And, I believe that, when we're non-physical, we're in the heavens above, right here. Not distant galaxy nonsense. Right here.
Indeed. Wow. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much, you guys.
I said Stonehenge. Those are the Georgia Guidestones. Somebody corrected me.
Okay. There you go. Oh, good. People.
By the way, Stonehenge was built in the 1950s. So another lie. Another lie.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It goes so deep. Yeah, this has been fabulous. I thoroughly enjoyed the surprise when I woke up today and had the news that both of you guys were going to come on. I was already looking forward to talking to Dave, but this is so great. I really admire both of your work, and the joy that you're exuding is so proof when you get into your subject and follow your passion and create with your creator. Then, this is what's possible for everybody, just to follow your own threads, and they're all there. Ways to create your reality in front of you rather than just be at the mercy of what the other so-called creators are putting in front of us every day, which is more and more irrelevant by the second. So thank you everyone who joined us on Rockfin and YouTube and Facebook. I think we have some people still over there, although they suppress me like crazy. And do keep in mind the April 22nd, if you want to put it on your calendar for, I believe it's going to be 3 p.m. in the afternoon Central Time, when Dean Clifford and Amanda Vollmer are going to come and talk about the private. Lots of stuff going on. I'm creating my coaching guild is that's the first thing I'm going to create in the private, because I feel like I have the keys to some incredible pieces of the puzzle on the internal world, that if this you can't figure out, or you're lost in confusion, you're lost in depression or anxiety, and you spend all your time trying to see why, and there's no good reason. There's just no good reason, but we have the means and the mechanism, we have the technology to be able to actually manage this creation that we've been given. So you can always reach out to me. Beth at bethmartens.com is a good email. You can visit bethmartens.com. I would love to send you a copy of my book, Cambell. And Dave, did you get one when we met?
I believe it's in my bookshelf. I haven't read it. I'll admit that, though.
Okay. All right. I won't hold it against you, but yeah, if you're interested, this is the archetypes of the hero's journey as I found them inside myself, and use them to save my life. So yeah, I'd love to ship one off to you. That would be good. And yeah, so I think that's pretty much it for now. Can you tell people the best way to reach you? I know, Dave, you're at flatearthdave.com. Your app is there, the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app, which I highly recommend. And anything else you want to share, Dave, about what's coming up?
If anybody knows of any shows that need to have this Flat Earth discussion, hook me up, hook Cambell up, send us links, recommend us, whatever it takes. Like, somebody's like, well, what can I do? I'm worried about my job. I don't want anyone to know. Well, do stuff behind the scenes. Help us reach other audiences. Right here, this was a fantastic interview. 95 to 99% of the people are already awake. We're just educating and becoming better with more knowledge. I love going on shows that think Flat Earth is dumb. Like Flat Earth, those are the best, because you're reaching new audiences. Like when I went on Owen Benjamin thought the Earth was a globe. Okay. Yeah. Now him and all of his followers know it's not a globe. That's good news. Okay.
Amazing.
So we're at this geometric progression right now. It's so big. I can't see us making it to the end of the year before this explodes worldwide. So everybody do your part. Wake people up. Send them playlists. Send them my app. Send them the Cambell's channel. Send them whatever you can, and encourage them to, learn what's going on. Take back our world. Unplug from the heliocentric matrix.
Definitely.
That's awesome.
So there's a book Dave button. There's an app button. If you want to hand out cards, there's a download cards information, and you just send them to one of the quick places that'll do business cards real cheap. Just different ways to wake people up.
Whoop. There you go.
Awesome.
So Cambell, what would you like to share?
So you'll find me just on Autodidactic. And Spiral Up is my other channel. I'm on YouTube and Odyssey and Rumble. So yeah, same thing. Just share the information around there. Ask people questions. But the main thing is, understand that the system that we grew up is in it's gone. It's if it's not gone, it's in free fall. It's not coming back. We don't want it back. So look at life as what can you build? Where do you want to be? And try and build from your vision on what you want, not from the past, not from things that we've been taught. We don't want to recreate this system that enslaved us, do we? We don't want that at all. So a lot of people are like, what am I doing? What job? I need to get another job. I mean, just thinking that question, that's the old system. No one needs a job. People, now it is, what am I good at? What turns me on? What makes me happy? What can I share? What do I feel like I should be doing? These are the things we need to be doing, and creating new businesses, new industries, and ultimately a new earth, right? That's what we all want.
That's so beautiful. I love that. I just put up I believe this is your backup channel, and I was trying to get the main one. So let me just try one more time to grab that. I do have the link handy. It keeps playing the video automatically. So sorry, I bust in.
Yeah.
That's okay. And so, yeah, this is Autodidactic one more time. And the meaning of the word, by the way, do you want to close with that?
Yeah. So autodidactic means to be self-educated. And we need to be self-educated, guys, because if we're not, the only choice we have left is to believe what other people tell us. And we know what these people are telling us. It's all false. So yeah, autodidactic, guys. Get out there, get as many points of views as you can on a subject, and then see what gels with you. Make up your own mind. When you get information, don't judge it as right or wrong. Just go, that's interesting, and then get more information. Make your own mind up.
There you go. Exactly. How beautiful. I love this conversation. I love you guys, even though I just met you, Cambell. And I hope, no, good. Thank you. I hope we have a chance to do it again. So thanks everyone for coming. This has been super fun. Feel free to share it out. Sounds like people already have. We've defied the algorithm today that has me pretty good in shadow band. And have a beautiful rest of your day. We'll see you soon, no doubt.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Thank you, everyone. Chat. See ya.
Bye-bye for now.